do these tools potentially access the subsystems in different company contexts? Because an isolated agent is probably fairly useless. It can just give some sort of feedback via text or voice. How do you interact with the system, basically? So that's my second notion here. Joao, do you want to take it from here, and then Bene rounds up once again, or challenges? Maybe again he doesn't agree.
So tools are exactly that, a way for the LLM to interact with the real world or your business. So far, there's been a lot of ways to do these tools. OpenAI had the first idea on how to make them. They were the first provider with an LLM that was actually capable of using tools. Nowadays, I think most of LLMs are able to use tools natively. They're trained to do that, and there's even a benchmark. When an LLM comes out and it's released and announced, they show it how good it is at using tools because it's becoming an ever-increasing important topic. So, how to build them? There's a lot of ways. I think there's a new standard coming around called MCP. They were proposed by Anthropic, which is also one of the big players in creating these LLMs. So it's a standardized way of creating tools and having them available to LLMs. Basically, each tool is its own server, and it can be on your business, so it can be running on your servers, interacting with, I'd say, your client base. So you have some kind of CRM software with all your client information, billing addresses, what account they have, what they're doing, and what they're using. And a tool, or let's say 2 or 3 tools, would be a way to list those users, get information about specific users, and maybe interact them and edit them so you can update them in real time. And you'd build this, let's say 3 tools, have them available to the LLM, and connect it to your agent. Then this is highly dependent on where you're running your agent and how you're doing it. But hopefully with this MCP approach, there's a standardized way. And you can use not only your tools, so you build specific tools for your specific software and services, but you can also possibly use tools that are available online. So there's a startup called Tavily that has like search tools for the web. Like LLMs can't really use Google like people do. They're not clicking around and going through pages, but they can and they should be able to go online and search for things. So Tavily built these tools publicly available, so any LLM can use them for a price. Of course, this is a business after all, and they can do search on Tavily's search tools, and they get results specifically tailored for LLMs in a specific format that works for LLMs. So it's formatted that it can understand the web much better.
Maybe an analogy is like in the gold rush, right? So you're basically provisioning the shovels, and you have a shovel shop basically. So in order for you to dig for the gold, in the ancient times, maybe for the audience, it's common knowledge, but most people made a lot of money by providing the shovels as opposed to just getting the actual gold off the ground. So this is maybe the same analogy. I don't know, Benny, if you want to mention that, or do you have a different, maybe disagreeing viewpoint?
No, I
Shao was
agree
saying.
with that because we were talking about these things earlier, and I really love that analogy. It's not using bolts running from groceries, but it's a good analogy as well.
It's not of this level, but it's actually maybe a good segue if we quickly want to pivot to the last or second last topic for today's show. It's really about these, let's say, business use cases, maybe even a business idea. If you want to be building a startup, or if you are a business and is aiming to be implementing AI agents all across so-called verticals. So you can think about an AI agent first, probably most likely to be augmenting a professional. And Joao quickly mentioned another notion is basically having a shop or a tool shop where you basically would be providing the shovels to the agent. But if we quickly segue to, let's say, a few of the business ideas, I just noted down like 6 or 7 that I think for Switzerland, but even in Europe, all around the world, are fairly interesting. The first one is the compliance AI agent. I think it's one of these things in Switzerland. We are a famous banking country. There's many regulatory constraints on compliance in Switzerland, and it's certainly a domain. If I would be a Swiss financial industry participant, if I would be maybe a smaller bank, maybe a larger bank, or just also some other associated financial services requiring to comply to these compliance standards. So I would probably delve in a little bit, try to understand the notion of how much of the workflows can we agentize. And here's maybe just my plot on that notion. I mean, ideally you would have probably 3 to 4 agents, and each of these agents probably show you disagree again because it's just one agent having different tools. But I think of it as like employees today having 4 or 5 different agents, and each of these agents that do a different task. So one agent could be analyzing customer relationships or analyzing a particular context. The second one could be then drafting a questionnaire, for example, to be sent to a client. The third one would then analyze the feedback of the customer, and maybe the fourth one would then draft the report. Does that make sense just as an overall idea of how we could be implementing that, or it's completely wrong in the thinking?
It does make sense. This like comparison of having like one super enabled agent or 4 or 5 is very comparable to having a human-based department. So you could hire someone to do like this very specific thing, and eventually they'd be very good at that one specific thing. But you also end up with 30 different people at your department, and eventually it'd be hard to manage. So I think 5 or 6 is a good balance to do that. And yeah, you can have these agents interact with themselves. We talked about voice bots and chat bots, but agents don't need to have this interface to humans directly. They can just be agents to help other agents. For example, you could have contracts going through email, right? And they're being discussed with lawyers, currently not AI agents. And when you get the contract signed, eventually someone has to go to the contract, open the PDF, and copy all the information back to your CRM software. So all the numbers that were agreed on, data that was agreed on, and that's a time-consuming task. It's a really simple one, but it's time-consuming and kind of boring that someone has to go through all those lengthy PDFs. That's someone an agent can do. So an agent that has no chatbot or no voice bot interface is just going to the contract every time you get a final signed contract. It updates your CRM software. The same way, for example, in admission in a hospital or in those clinics, when you have to sign a form, there's a lot of good software that can analyze those handwritten papers and can scan them and get information out. And then you can have an agent that looks at that information and then goes to your software and updates the CRM. Maybe it's in 3 different databases. You can go to all 3 different of them and have the information from the paper to your service, and you don't have to spend some secretary's time and work to do that.
I think that's a great notion. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a true believer that at least in 2025, maybe next year, AI is not replacing any humans yet in most of the jobs potentially in Switzerland. Rather, it's probably augmenting professionals to be more efficient, more effective, and especially doing most of the heavy lifting on the anyway cumbersome task. I think that's probably one of the more overlooked items in AI, as opposed to just the constant maybe negative notions on AI. It's actually you as a professional, you can pretty much just outsource the tedious work, the tedious admin work most of the time to such an AI system. It's fairly good at this. It's fairly parallelizable. You can do multiple of these requests at the same time, meaning multiple questionnaires at the same time, meaning multiple analysis at the same time. And you as a professional, you'll literally be augmented to be just leading basically a virtual army of agents, and you're just making sure the orchestration works, you're giving feedback, and you're just a lot more effective and a lot more efficient as a Swiss professional. So